Here I go, here I go, here I go. Yeah, here I go, here I go.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of the Take Podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Burleson, of course, and in today's episode, my goodness, Game 7 is just the greatest two words in sports. You talk about put it out on the floor for your season, and that's what you get in Game 7. We saw two amazing matchups last night. We'll start with the Knicks and Pacers. The Pacers came out on top, which I had a feeling they might do that, especially the way they just manhandled the Knicks at home for these 3 games in this series. But, I mean, bro, it's kind of hard to beat a team like the Pacers if you're shooting 67% from the field, which is a playoff record. FYI, there is no way to stop it. Regardless about the Knicks' health situation, they were still just bringing it on to the Knicks. And I've never seen the Garden go that quiet, ever. That Garden was just silent the entire night. And I just was like in shock, because that's the biggest atmosphere in the NBA playoffs. That is the mecca of basketball. And you're telling me the Garden's quiet? Okay, so Tyrese Haliburton, you're him, 26 points, 6 of 12 from three-point range. He is going to be an X factor in the Celtics series, which we'll get into in a little bit. Of course, Haliburton has been just that shifty guard who can get out in open space, make plays for others. I really like the way he stepped up in this series, hitting the 3-ball, just at a consistent basis. And one thing that J.J. Redick said last night is Tyrese Haliburton has to score the basketball for his teammates around him to get looks and for his team to be better, essentially. And I think one player that's really made the Pacers better is Pascal Siakam. That mismatch problem the Knicks had with him, they had no one to guard him. Even last night, they tried putting OG Anunoby in the game, but he only played like 4 minutes. He was running around out there like he had something up his butt. He could not run at all. Like that hamstring injury, like I'm telling you, hamstring injuries are very hard to come back from, because that's where you get all your explosiveness out of your legs. And OG Anunoby is a great defender, great player, a lot of playoff experience, but he just did not look like himself last night, obviously. And Josh Hart. Josh Hart did not look like himself last night either. And he's just getting beat up against Siakam, because Siakam is like 6'10". Josh Hart's like 6'5". Like, what do you expect Josh Hart to do in that situation? All he's got to do is put his hands up and pray, because he's not going to be able to guard him. And then when they were getting beaten up anyways, right? Pacers up 15 at halftime. Oh, the Knicks are going to come out. You know, the Pacers are not going to shoot that well from the field. Second half comes around, Jalen Brunson fractures his hand. Then all hope is just absolutely lost for the Knicks. They literally had to sit there and pray, oh, DiVincenzo, 39 points. Please lead us, please. And I know Stephen A. was salty when the Knicks lost Game 7, because we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming, because the Knicks had no Jalen Brunson, no Julius Randle, no Mitchell Robinson, no Bojan Bogdanovic for part of Game 7. Now, for the whole series, they haven't had Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, or Bojan Bogdanovic. That's hurt them, which makes me it's surprising that the Knicks even made it out of the first round against the Sixers. But the Sixers were injured as well, so, I mean, you can't really sit there and say, oh, the Sixers were healthy. Like, no, they weren't. So the Knicks season is over. I think the Knicks, they easily make the conference finals if they're healthy, but they just weren't healthy. Pacers, I mean, they made it to the conference finals for the first time since 2014. We'll see what they do, but they really showed up, and they were shooting the ball. Playoff record, shooting the ball. Like, that's what it took for them to win Game 7, and they did it. And one more player I want to point out that really did help the Knicks stay in the game for a little bit, at least, Alec Burks, bro. 26 points in 27 minutes. That was the best game of Alex Burks' career. Not even close. Not even close. And I feel bad for the Knicks because health was not going their direction. So the Pacers, they move on. Everyone was doing the choking meme with Tyrese Halliburton and the same thing with Reggie. I mean, Knicks were up 3-2 in this series. I mean, they had a chance to close it out in Indiana, and they didn't do it. Chance to close it out in Game 7, and they couldn't do it. The Knicks haven't been to a conference finals in a long time. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. Probably since Ewing and those boys were there. It's probably the last time the Knicks have been in the conference finals. A long time. So they weren't winning, and they have a good future around them. I think the Knicks are missing a piece. I think maybe they go get Donovan Mitchell. Maybe Kevin Durant goes to the Knicks. Maybe he gets out of Phoenix. We'll see with that. But let's move on right now. Oh, yeah, and by the way, while I'm talking about this, went 2 for 2 in conference finals predictions. I predicted the Mavericks series right, and I predicted the Timberwolves series right. Or 4 for 4, excuse me, give myself a little bit of credit. I picked the Celtics to go to conference finals. I picked the Pacers to go to the conference finals. My conference finals predictions were correct. That's the bottom line here. And I said the Timberwolves were going to win Game 7 on the road. And guess what they did? They did. They won Game 7. They came back down 20 points, the largest deficit overcoming a playoff game in NBA history. And Anthony Edwards didn't even play all that particularly well. He didn't even hit 20 points. Karl-Anthony Towns had to score 23. Jaden McDaniels had to score 23 for the Timberwolves to even win that game. Anthony Edwards was nowhere to be found. I mean, legit. I was thinking to myself, no way. In the third quarter, Anthony Edwards he was like 4-15 from the field, 0 for 6 on three-point range, 8 points. I was like, bro, if they lose this game because of Anthony Edwards, I'm never going to hear the end of this. Never going to hear the end of this. But the Timberwolves came through. They won the game. Anthony Edwards came up clutch with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That's what we're talking about, Anthony Edwards. Georgia Bulldog just pulled out the dog. He said, I'm going to hit that three. I'm going to ice it. And we're going to the conference finals. Simple as that. He said in his press conference. I told the Nuggets guys, told the Nuggets boys in the locker room, we'll be back here for a Game 7. And they go and beat the defending champs by 45 points in Game 6. No defending champ is lost by that much in playoff history. That is the biggest loss for a defending champ in NBA history. 45 points. That cannot happen. That cannot happen. Especially when the Nuggets have only they've won 2 games on the road in Minnesota. And I think the one thing the Nuggets were missing was help from their bench. I mean, bro, we look at it, right? Jokic and Murray were cooking. 69 points combined. But no other player on the Nuggets hit double figures besides those 2. That's why they lost. And they only lost by 8 points. And they weren't even playing all that well. Michael Porter Jr., he was missing some wide open threes. He was not playing particularly well. And if you look at it, 5 bench points is not going to get it done. 5 bench points is not going to get it done. Christian Brown cannot be your best bench player. And I think the Nuggets honestly need some more depth in the center position because besides Jokic, they don't have anyone for him to come in to give him some rest and give him some relief because he played pretty much the whole game last night. Pretty much the whole game. He only came out for a little bit. He had to play the whole game because they got no one behind him to back him up. They got nobody else. DeAndre Jordan's going to come in the game? Stop. DeAndre Jordan is not coming in that game and doing anything. And I think that's where the Nuggets lost that game, is their bench and their depth. And I think the Timberwolves' defense was really good, especially in the full court. I mean, they were disrupting Jamal Murray in the half court. He was not even – there was a play last night. Jamal Murray got to half court and 2 Minnesota defenders were right there. Anthony Edwards steals the ball. Easy dunk. I mean, that's one thing that we're going to be looking at in this next round of the conference finals, because the T-Wolves, they have not been to the conference finals in 20 years. It's been a long time since Kevin Garnett was there. But I think their defense is really good, and they got offense. I mean, they proved last night that the defending champs, they're a little banged up. But I was expecting, I'm not going to lie, I think I picked the Timberwolves, but I was expecting the Nuggets to pull it out at home as the defending champs. But I think it's crazy that the Nuggets are done. I mean, the Timberwolves are that good, man. I mean, they're legit. They're well coached, which their coach, we'll see if he comes back at any point in time from his injury. But let's get into JB's Picks, brought to you by Hard Rock Bets, the only betting app you can use in the state of Florida to put down any kind of bet, whether that's spreads, player props, or money lines. That is the only app in the state of Florida you can bet on. So download Hard Rock Bets today. And my picks today, I've got 2 picks once again for you guys. And my first pick is the Pacers plus 10.5 to plus 10.5 in game 1. Without Kristaps Porzingis playing, I think the Pacers can win game 1, first of all. Second of all, I think dealing with Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam without Porzingis, I think that's going to be a tough task for the first 2 games for the Celtics, because Porzingis was ruled out for game 1. His status for game 2 is uncertain. There's a lot of rumors going around saying he may not even play in game 2. So we'll see what happens with Porzingis' injury and whenever he comes back in the series. But I think without him, Pacers can capitalize. They can win a game or 2 in Boston. I mean, their size, I mean, that's what they've been relying on these last couple series. And I think the Celtics, they got an injured player. I think they could take advantage of that. And Tyrese Haliburton now momentum, and, TJ McConnell, I think, he can come in, match Peyton Pritchard's energy. I think that'll be a great matchup off the bench. And then Aaron Nesmith, I think, guarding Jaylen Brown. I think that's going to be a tough matchup for Jaylen Brown. I don't know what he's going to be able to do with that. He can still score the basketball, second on the Celtics in scoring these playoffs. But Siakam and Tatum, I think that's going to be a good matchup. Jason Tatum, he played well to end the Cleveland series. I know the Celtics still have the easiest path to NBA Finals in NBA history, but he did play well. He ended the last 3 games of the Cavs series 33, 33, and 25. I mean, that's what you want to see out of your star players. As much hate as I give JT, but I'm taking the Pacers to beat the Celtics in game 1, but hit that plus 10.5 spread, because I think the Pacers can really do some damage there, because the Pacers, they lost in the Knicks series, they lost in game 1 by 4. In a hostile environment in MSG, I think they can go into TD Garden. I think they can steal one. But plus 10 for the Pacers. Now, my second pick is T-Wolves money line minus 180. The Timberwolves have only lost 2 playoff games at home this year. It was game 3 and game 4 against the Nuggets. And I think the momentum they have after this Nuggets series, they're going to come in and just pound the Dallas Mavericks. I really do believe the Dallas Mavericks are in trouble against the T-Wolves. I just don't think the Mavericks have enough size. But it will be interesting, because I think the Mavericks do have some bodies to throw at the Nuggets. I mean, not the Nuggets. T-Wolves, they've got Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford. I mean, you got them boys there. Daniel Gafford, he did make it difficult for Zubac in the first round against the Clippers, and you've got Rudy and Cat. So we'll see. Daniel Gafford, I think he can do something there. But I'm taking the T-Wolves minus 180 at home, win game 1. I think that should be an easy one. I mean, the Mavericks, they haven't been great in game 1s these playoffs. They haven't won one yet. They're 0-2 in game 1s in these playoffs. So I think those two picks, put them in the Hard Rock Bets app. Now, let's get into the conference finals. So as you guys know from earlier, I said in the last podcast as well, I predicted the conference finals correct. So let's start out with the Minnesota Timberwolves and Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic versus Anthony Edwards. Now, This is the T-Wolves' second conference finals ever. But this is the Mavericks' second conference finals in 3 years. So, Mavericks have experience being in this situation before. I mean, that's one thing I think you can really look at with this Mavericks team. They have the experience. Luka has been to a conference finals. Kyrie's definitely, he's been to the finals many occasions. It isn't crazy. I think this is the first time Kyrie's been to the conference finals since he was on the floor. Won't count the Celtics in 2018, but this is the first time he's played in a conference finals, I want to say, since 2017. So it's been 7 years since Kyrie Irving's played in a conference finals. And I think when it comes to the matchups and things like that, I think Jane McDaniels, he could guard Luka. I think that's a good matchup for the T-Wolves to put him on Luka. Now, the problem becomes, I think Anthony Edwards can guard Kyrie Irving. Anthony Edwards has elite on-ball defending abilities. He can really disrupt her dribbling. But Kyrie, he just hits some tough shots sometimes. And I think the Mavericks are going to have really big games out of Kyrie and Luka consistently in this series. Because Luka Doncic, I don't know if you've looked at his numbers, but Luka Doncic is shooting 30% from three in the playoffs, which is not great. He really hasn't been that efficient. SGA had better percentages than he did in the playoffs. SGA, which I brought up this Thunder team, so I'm gonna talk about him for a sec. I think SGA, great player, top 5 player in the NBA. Thunder have a lot of elite talent around them. They got Jalen Williams, they got Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort. They're ahead of schedule, as a lot of people have said. But I think this was really their year, and I think they should have beaten the Mavericks, even though I picked the Mavericks, but I think the Thunder should have really beaten them. And I think SGA, he just needed a little bit more help. And I think that's what it's going to take for the Mavericks to win this series. I think they're going to have a lot of help from the role players. PJ Washington, he's been shooting 40% from three-point range in this playoff. So I think he has to come in and be aggressive and shoot the three-point, be confident. I think he is the X factor in this series. If the Mavericks win this series, PJ Washington will be playing elite basketball. Derek Jones Jr., he's a great defensive piece. Jalen Green coming off the bench. I think it's going to come down to the role players in this series because there's a lot of them. I think the Timberwolves, I think Rudy Gobert, gosh, man, for Defensive Player of the Year, you're pretty bad at defense. I'm just saying, last night he had no impact on Game 7 whatsoever. The Timberwolves were willingly taking him out of the game, putting Naz Reid in, for him to not have to guard Jokic. They were putting Karl Towns on Jokic last night. They said, Rudy, go guard Aaron Gordon. Rudy shouldn't have won Defensive Player of the Year, first of all. Victor Wembanyama should have won Defensive Player of the Year. Look at the stats. I'll put up a graphic. Look at their defensive stats. Wemby clears Rudy Gobert in stats. Why? Why give it to Rudy? Why? Give it to the rookie. He's led the lead in blocks. 7'5" phenom. Give that man the Defensive Player of the Year and Rookie Year. Come on, bro. Stop. Stop with this. We cannot be serious right now about this Defensive Player of the Year stuff. We can't. Oh, man, but Mavericks, Timberwolves, that series. I'm going to pick the Timberwolves still. I'm still riding with my pick. I think the Timberwolves are going to win this series. And then whoever they play in the Eastern Conference, I think they're going to win the NBA championship. Celtics don't have a chance against them without Porzingis. And the Pacers. Well, let's get into that. Prediction, Pacers, Celtics. I'm going to go with the Indiana Pacers to upset the Boston Celtics. I think the Celtics, they are frauds. They're not playoff ready. I think Jason Tatum's going to crunch in the crunch time. I think he's going to collapse. Jaylen Brown, I think he's going to have to carry the weight too much. And I think Porzingis is not going to make it back in this series until Game 4, I think. So that's 3 games for the Pacers to get two games at least. But I think this series goes 7. I'm taking Pacers in 7 games. And I hate the Celtics. I hope the Celtics lose. Please lose. Please lose the game. Please. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. That is all I'm asking, please. I hate the Celtics. I hate the Celtics. I hate the Celtics. But when you look at this series, I like the point guard matchup with Jrue Holiday and Tyrese Halliburton. That's going to be a real challenge for Tyrese Halliburton because Jrue Holiday is one of the best defenders, if not the best defender at the guard position. And Halliburton hasn't really had a matchup like this in the playoffs. I mean, the Bucks, they didn't really pose a threat to him. Knicks definitely didn't. I think Tyrese Halliburton's going to have a tough series, but I think he can still get his. And I think the X factor, again, is going to be Siakam. I mean, can he take over and dominate in the paint? Turner, can he dominate in the paint as well? I mean, Miles Turner, he is one of the best shot blockers in the league, whether you guys like it or not. And without Porzingis, I mean, that's a hard ask to deal with all that size that Indiana's got going on. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton's a big point guard as well, and I think the Pacers have a good combination of veterans and young players, and they got a lot of depth. I think they can win this series. It's going to be a hard-fought series, and I think the Celtics, you know, they're ready. They deserve it this year, but Pacers are going to get it. They're going to take it from them. They're going to go to the NBA Finals for the first time since Reggie was there when they played the Lakers in 2000. So it's going to be an interesting series. I can't wait. These playoffs, oh my gosh. You know what? I think with these four teams being in the conference finals, Timberwolves, Mavericks, Pacers, Celtics, I think at the beginning of this season, I wouldn't have said the Pacers would have been in there, and I wouldn't have said the T-Wolves or Mavs would be in the conference finals. I think the Mavericks had potential. I just don't think people knew they could put the pieces together because they were struggling a little bit at first when they got Kyrie. But, you know, I think they turned it around. And I'm happy that the T-Wolves won because I really like the T-Wolves. I like watching them play. They're very entertaining. Anthony Edwards just continuing to build on his legacy. He is on his quest to get his first NBA championship. And we're about to witness history. We're about to witness it. I'll go T-Wolves in 6 against the Mavericks. Pacers in 7. Jason Tatum, he's going to collapse in this series. The defense that the Pacers are going to be able to throw at him, I think is going to be too much. I think he's going to be too much. And I think Pacers, Timberwolves, NBA Finals. I'm going Timberwolves. That's my picks for the championship. Let me know what you guys thought about Game 7. I think, you know, these playoffs have been very weird because I think it's been full of a lot of injuries, especially on the Eastern Conference side. Western Conference, not so much. I mean, I feel like the teams have been a little more healthy there at least, but, man, I love playoff basketball. I love playoff basketball, but this is going to go ahead and do it for today's episode of the Take Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure to hit that thumbs up, that notification bell, and also comment what you guys thought of Game 7, and also who you guys got going to the NBA Finals and winning it all. Let me know all of that information down in the comments. I'm your host, Jackson Burleson. You guys have been watching another episode of the Take Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Talk to me, baby. Talk to me nice. I'm from another world, baby, yeah. Broadway paradise. They think I'm way too cold, cause I put my heart up.